Ya,
Oke, ini meetingnya sudah saya record, besok akan tayang di YouTube Twister juga. Oke, Kak Albert, silahkan.
ya. Ini saya share screen. Presentasinya nanti kebanyakan pakai bahasa Inggris, soalnya sekarang lebih gampang. Bentar ya. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a little bit about me. So this is to the left here. This is my wife, Grace. She is from the US, and we have two little puppies with Index. Yeah, we love pets, and so we take them to swim, hike, to go to the lake. So it's really fun to have them around. So just a little bit about me. I'm from Yogyakarta. Graduated high school there in 2011 and went straight to the US for the college. And so this is where I graduated from. My university is called University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. This is one of the iconic building called Old Main, one of the oldest building in campus. So basically, my campus is located on top of the hill. So as you can see from this drone photo, you can see a lot of things kind of around it, and really nice sunset sometimes in the evening. So graduated from the university with Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. Did my bachelor there for 4 years, and now I'm working at Milestone Construction as virtual design and construction. So this picture here to the right, I manage a lot of coordination between different trades and just try to invent more technology that can probably help the industry. And so it's been really fun ride. You get to work with a lot of different people, engineers, architects, and yeah, so far it's so good. And to the bottom here, I put my email. So if you guys want to just connect with me, I would love to hear more about you, or if you have any other questions after this talk, just feel free to email me. And so let's go ahead and get started. The first slide is going to be about scholarship. So with the scholarship, the first thing that comes to mind is like, yeah, don't ever give up. Like there's always a lot of scholarship out there, and yeah, the item number one there are so many scholarship out there from over 50, 300 colleges and universities. That's a lot. And so if you can say like there's about 2 or 3 of them each. I mean, there's over 15,000 scholarships from each university, and sometimes they have like hundreds in some of the bigger school. So so yeah, just don't give up. If you want to apply for a scholarship, there's so many options out there. And then I remember too, you can always transfer to a different school. So I've seen a lot of international students here. They would go to a smaller school, like a community college or something, and they would transfer to a bigger school where they want to go. And it works or work out quite well. And it's actually a little bit cheaper to be in community college. And so you can always take, just like general credit, kind of like math and physics. You can take just English in a smaller school, and then and you can pay less for that for sure. And with that, item number 3, it says about in-state tuition. So every state is different. For example, in Arkansas, we have an in-state tuition, which is going to be half of what an international student's going to pay. So as long as you come here and you go to a smaller school and you can transfer, then you can get an in-state tuition for a public university. And yeah, there's just so many options out there. And yeah, and if there's any question, I think I can probably go ahead and, try to answer it if we want to, but I can wait until the end as well. So item number 4, graduate assistantship. This is like the most popular for international students, kind of to get their master's degree. So with graduate assistantship, you would basically work for 20 hours a week, and you would either do research or you can do teaching. And with that, like most of your tuition will be paid for, and then you also get a stipend every month, and ranging from like $800 to $1,200 a month. So if you already have a bachelor degree and want to apply for master's, I would definitely, suggest that graduate assistantship, and that would be the best way to do it. And yeah, and I would always encourage everybody to just keep applying and don't just be picky with one institution, and go ahead and try to apply and diversify your application. And I know it takes a lot of work, but sometimes, out of 100, maybe you'll hear like 5 or 6, then you have some options there. So clear enough? Is there any questions regarding scholarship so far? Okay.
Mungkin pertanyaannya bisa di akhir saja ya, Kak ya.
Oke. Oke, no problem.
Oke. Oh iya, mungkin Kak Albert bisa dikeraskan sedikit ya, Kak, volumenya, Kak.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh iya. Oke.
Is this better?
Yes, much better.
Okay. Sorry about that. Working in the US. So when you work in the US, you need to understand what your immigration status are. So for example, the most popular one is F1 and J1. So for F1 is for people who have their own funding when they came here. And so, for example, for me, I was fortunate enough to be an F1 student that I was able to rely on my parents to send me here. But for other people, they might be a J1 student. And so with the J1 student, you actually have funding from other institution, for example, like Indonesian government or American government, or from, scholarship like Fulbright. So that would be your status. So yeah, the first thing that I would say is just really understanding your immigration status, because there's a lot of restrictions, and there's a lot of different ways to get a job. So just don't want you guys to get in trouble. Yeah, number 2 would be obtain a social security number. So when you come here and you want to work, you have to have a social security number, and that would keep you to being tracked to pay all taxes. And and as soon as you have social security number, it's a lot easier for you to be a resident, kind of just have a valid driver license and all that. And sometimes like we want to do a part-time work on campus, and I would definitely encourage that. If you go to the US, there's a lot of options to work on campus. For example, I was working in one of the College of Engineering, and I was working in one of the physical building, like the recreational facility. And so definitely a good opportunity for you to get started doing a part-time job on campus. But with part-time job, you really have to watch out for the number of hours. So during academic year, you have to have 20 hours per week and no more than that, because if it's more than that, like you'll have trouble. And except for on breaks, you can work up to 40 hours a week. And usually part-time job is pretty good, and they would pay about minimum wage mostly. And right now it's probably around like $9, $10 an hour for minimum wage. So even if you work at the library or just sit there being a check-in at the library, and you still gonna get paid for minimum wage. So it's a pretty good deal if you just wanna, you know, have something to do and not, you know, preventing you from studying. So you definitely meet a lot of people from just working around campus, and you can apply to 2 or 3 different jobs, and as long as the hours is it's not more than 20 hours. So with that being said, so if you're a F1 student, you can get a curricular practical training, or CPT. That would be your internship during the academic year. So you can, you know, work for, you know, another company for, you know, the summer. So it has to be during the break. If you want to just do it without taking academic year. But there's also co-op, which is you're taking academic year. So for example, you can, for the fall semester, instead of studying, you can working, you know, you can work for a little bit. And another option is also optional practical training. That's after you graduate. And so that's what I did. So after I graduate, I applied for this optional practical training, or OPT. And what that allows you is to give you a permission to work off campus after you graduate, and it has to be related to your field. So as long as the job or the description of the job is related to your field, then you will have a year to just work and don't have to worry about any kind of immigration status or anything, like any new visas or anything. So that kind of really good works out really good for most people, because when you have like a year to work, then you can kind of find out what you want to do, and that would allow you to kind of just prepare yourself for what your goals are. And for STEM students in science, technology, engineering, and math, you're allowed to have a 2-year extension. So it's going to be a 3-year total of working. And so that works out really good. And if you, definitely, if you try to come and want to work in the US, if you're in the STEM field, you have a little bit more advantage for having more work experience. And then finally, H-1B is a work sponsorship. And usually a lot of people that do optional practical training would go ahead and have their company apply for H-1B or for work sponsorship. And that would be a lottery base. So if you're a master, you have more chances to get the work sponsorship, and also a green card process. Of course, if you have family, or if you have family members that are that are U.S. citizen, or or maybe have a dual citizenship, you can get a green card, and that would be a lot easier to achieve your work permit. And so, just want to kind of consider about, if you consider about working, just make sure that you know all the rules. It's really strict in here, and I've seen some of my friends that maybe got in trouble or either exceeding 20 hours a week, or work somewhere else where it's not allowed. So for example, if you want to work at the restaurant or a grocery store, you can't do that. You have to have a valid permit to do that. And so just things to keep that in mind. So there's many different ways that you can definitely earn money and help with some of your study here in the US. If you need to buy books or something, books are pretty expensive. And so it definitely helped me in the long run. So There's a little bit of quote from Elon Musk. People work better when they know what the goal is and why. It is important that people look forward to coming to work and enjoy working. And so when I first came here, kind of Elon was kind of under the radar, and then he suddenly kind of popped up out of nowhere, and kind of just been following his journey a little bit on how, you know, he built a really good company and just become one of the richest people in the world. So yeah, he's definitely passionate about what his work is, and so I encourage everybody to be that way as well. And it's much more enjoyable when you have fun while working. So while in college, this is kind of some of the life hacks, leadership attributes that that you can definitely sharpen in college. And so soft skills is definitely the most important part. Communication, I think that is a good virtue, that being able to communicate, you can definitely get a lot of job offers, because most of the interviews are, they're just gonna look at your soft skill and not really your resume as much. And that's in my opinion. And they kind of ask you about critical thinking, teamwork, work ethic, and networking. So yeah, this is a quote from Jack Ma. He's again another billionaire from China. No matter how smart you are, if you don't know how to work with people, your dreams will just be dreams. And so definitely soft skills is one of the most important things. If you're in college, don't always study, go out and meet people and learn about leadership, learn about communication and teamwork, and networking is another thing. Just you never know who you're going to meet in college, and you might be sitting next to somebody who is the son of a president. I don't know. It could happen, or somebody that might hire you in the future. And so, yeah, networking is really important. Learn how to start a small talk, learn how to shake hand, make eye contact. All that is really important while you're in college. So yeah, don't focus on study, even though it's important, but yeah, don't focus on study too much, and leave some time to build your social skills. So, get involved in volunteer work is another thing that is important, in my opinion, while I was in college. And so these are some of my friends back in college, and we did a lot of presentations, and we have a lot of Indonesian kind of activities, Indonesian items that people kind of can touch and see. And so this definitely helps your presentation skill. It gives you the opportunity to meet people and share more about your country. And I think it was a really good experience. And also meet people from different culture. And so one of the event here, we were in one of the elementary school, and we were teaching kids about Indonesian culture. And so if you can talk with kids, you can talk with anybody. And so if you can make kids like pay attention to you, you can make a lot of executives or bosses pay attention to you as well. So it's really important. And establish your professional connections. So while in college, just talk to your professor and see if they have any connections that you can get connected to for internship or for job. And so it's definitely important. Attend leadership development classes. And so this is one of the most important things kind of in my college career. There are a lot of free leadership classes that you can attend, and you should take advantage of that. And there's a lot of great speakers out there. Even just go on YouTube and take some classes, or on lynda.com or the library or something. It definitely helped me. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely helped me understand what leadership looks like in a workplace. And so, yeah, just take those opportunities while you can, because after college, it's all going to be, paid. So there's nothing to do after college mostly. There's a lot of free food, and so take those as well. And lastly, just have fun and don't take it too seriously. Don't stress out, and just go attend a lot of different events. And the picture here to the right hand corner, we were actually studying abroad. So like if you're in the US, you can definitely get a scholarship to study abroad. And so it's important that, there's an opportunity for you to travel somewhere else. So I was able to study abroad in Europe for the summer, and we're able to get some scholarship for that as well. And so, while you're in the US, you can do a lot of things. And one of them is making a lot of connections and just going to sporting events, just have fun and on the weekends, and just set your homework aside for a little bit and just make connections and make lifetime friends. And so it's another quote from Warren Buffett: it's good to learn from your mistakes. It's better to learn from other people's mistakes. And so that's definitely what I learned a lot and at work. A lot of my colleagues kind of share about their mistakes so that I don't have to repeat it. And so, the first mistake that you're probably gonna make is probably not applying to enough universities in the US. But other than that, just keep on working on your communication skill, your English speaking ability. It definitely helped when you get here. I had to take a year of English class, but I didn't have to if I had, maybe like educational opportunities like Leicester in here. So just definitely consider options on having different languages nailed down wherever you want to go, whether it's in
Oke. Oke.
Thank you ya Kak Albert ya, presentasinya sangat menginspirasi sekali sih. Bagaimana Kak perasaannya setelah presentasi ini?
Gimana?
Bagaimana perasaannya setelah menyampaikan sharing informasi tadi ke teman-teman nih?
Ya.
Sedikit melihat masa lalu ya Kak ya?
Iya.
Oke. Ya, tadi beberapa poin yang saya tangkap sih dari presentasinya Kak Albert ini, diantaranya adalah gimana kita untuk tetap fokus pada tujuan utama kita di kampus gitu. Nah, selain di kampus juga emang kita seharusnya extend ini ya Kak, relationship kayak gitu. Nah, mungkin dari teman-teman sendiri nih Kak, dari tadi tuh kayaknya udah pada penasaran, pengen tanya. Ini di kolom chat juga sudah ada yang bertanya dari Kak Jenny. Halo Kak Jenny, mungkin bisa open cam dan juga open mic untuk langsung berinteraksi dengan Kak Albert. Silakan Kak Jenny.
Halo Kak.
Halo.
Maaf tuh nggak bisa nyalain kamera. Soalnya kameranya rusak.
Oke, no problem Kak. Silahkan.
Ya, ada problem. Kak mau nanya, gimana sih supaya kita tuh percaya diri gitu sama kemampuan apa yang kita punya gitu.
Boleh diulang? Sorry.
Gimana caranya supaya kita percaya diri sama kemampuan yang kita punya?
Oh ya. Ya kalau PD itu kan sebenarnya sih kebanyakan interaksi ya. Jadi kalau kalian banyak interaksi sama orang lain, misalnya kalau kalian ketemu misalnya orang dari luar negeri gitu, coba bisa nggak interaksi gitu kan. Kadang-kadang kalau kita ketemu orang dari luar negeri, kita cuma liatin aja dari jauh gitu kan. Tapi kadang-kadang mereka juga mau tanya-tanya kan tentang Indonesia atau tentang ya kan Indonesia kan tergantung termasuk kan salah satu negara yang paling welcoming gitu ya. Nah, I think in Indonesia if you can just meet people from different country and just talk to them. Most of them speak English, so yeah, just learn how to talk to them. I think it would gain your confidence a lot. And so ya jadi pede aja kalau misalnya ada kesempatan buat ngobrol sama orang dari luar negeri, misalnya di universitas atau misalnya di Lister kayak gini, ya diambil aja kesempatannya. Gitu. Pasti nanti jadi pede deh.
Oke. Sama mau nanya lagi boleh?
Boleh Kak, silakan.
Kan saya sekarang SMA. Nah, saya untuk di akademik ini bisa dibilang bagus, tapi nggak yang bagus-bagus banget. Jadi untuk dapat scholarship itu, berarti yang harus saya tingkatkan tuh apa Kak gitu? Karena kan di akademik saya bilang ya udah biasa aja gitu, bagus tapi ya nggak yang bagus-bagus banget gitu.
Ya sebenarnya sih kalau kalian datang dari Indonesia, kalian itu udah ada kayak advantage gitu ya. Kalian udah bisa belajar bahasa Indonesia, udah bisa terbang 20 jam ke negara lain. Itu kan udah advantage. Kalian udah lihat negara-negara lain, terus kalian bisa ngomong Indonesia, bisa ngomong Inggris. Kadang-kadang itu bisa maksudnya kalian bisa ada advantage daripada misalnya orang dari sini yang mau apply scholarship-nya juga gitu. Jadi opiniku sih sebenarnya kalau mau apply, jadi cari aja apa volunteer opportunity yang kalian udah adain di Indonesia. Jadi apa yang kalian lakukan di kuliah di sini atau di SMA itu bisa dimasukin ke scholarship application gitu.
Oke Kak.
Ya.
Oke, tadi ya Kak Albert ya yang ditanyakan Kak Jenny juga nih. Kalau misalkan kita nggak terlalu pintar, tapi kita pengen apply beasiswa, itu sangat-sangat bisa ya Kak ya?
Bisa.
Iya, asalkan kita mungkin punya pengalaman volunteer atau mungkin leadership kita bagus, gitu bisa ditonjolkan di sana gitu ya Kak ya?
Bisa diajukan ya.
Oke. Ini pertanyaan selanjutnya nih Kak, ada dari namanya Kak Akili. Halo Kak Akili, ada di sini, bisa open cam dan juga open mic Kak?
Ya ini ada di chat kan?
Iya. Apakah mau bertanya secara langsung atau cukup lewat chat saja?
Ya, cukup.
Oh iya, oke.
Di chat aja. Oke.
Iya.
Questions are, did you feel culture shock and homesick when you came to the US? Yes, definitely. So my town is a small town, a population of like 100,000 people probably. And so it's definitely culture shock because there's not many people around here and it's hard to get Indonesian food. So, but I was able to get Indomie, so that's a plus. how to enter and pass in the U.S. college. So a lot of U.S. colleges, mostly like public university, they would ask you just to go ahead and fill out application. They most of them, they don't have like a entry requirement. They just need a copy of your um, high school diploma and high school credits. And after you get here, you'll get an opportunity to have a test so that you can be placed to different classes. For example, like English Comm or algebra, calculus. And so I think in Indonesia, in high school, definitely you guys have more materials, and it should be pretty easy if you study what you study in high school and try to pass the test to come here. So if we want to apply a university in the US, but we don't have a scholarship, we must provide budget and fund for that. Yes, you do have to provide budget and fund for yourself. And if you are allowed to do that and want to do that, it's better if you can come to the US and then start applying while you're accepted in one of the colleges. So like one of my talk earlier, you can go to small colleges and then try to apply to a bigger colleges later with the bigger scholarship. You can definitely do that. But yeah, you have to provide your own funding if you don't have a scholarship.
How much money we have to provide?
It depends on per universities because it depends on where you live. For example, where I live, it's the living cost is a little bit cheaper than in New York. Because like, for example, if you live in New York, then you have to pay a lot for just food and rent, and compared to a smaller city like mine, it's a lot more affordable. And for example, like if you come to US with, just to my hometown here, and it would be probably around like 20,000 probably required for that first year if you need to fund it yourself. So yeah, definitely a lot, 20,000 US, and that's why it's important to just to apply for a scholarship while you can, and have that as a plan B.
Yeah, I have a plan to apply to Cornell University in New York, but as you know that it has the highest living cost, right?
Yes.
In the US.
Yes.
So when I don't have a scholarship, how can I handle the situation? Maybe
Yeah,
I can to find or look for scholarship or maybe a sponsor.
Yeah. So are you doing a bachelor's? S1 atau S2?
I'm postgraduate.
Oh ya, kalau postgrad itu bisa kayak di slideku tadi, bisa try to apply for graduate assistantship. In many different universities, they offer graduate assistantship. So for example, like in my university, I have the link kind of back here. Right here. You want to try to look what graduate assistantship my universities offer. You can try to look into that because with graduate assistantship is one of the best post-grad that you can do as far as scholarship, because technically you'll be working for the university, so they'll compensate you for paying like less for the tuition, and they will give you a monthly stipend that could be up to $1,200 a month. So
okay, thank you for your information.
Yeah, and try to check if Cornell has one too. But yeah, living costs might be a little bit steep over there in New York. So.
Oke, ya terima kasih ya Kakak Akhil yang tadi sudah bertanya. Ini masih ada pertanyaan lagi nih Kak Albert dari Kak Yosefina Katarina. Kak Yosefin ingin berinteraksi langsung atau cukup di chat saja Kak?
Di chat aja Mbak.
Oke, baik. Ya, pertanyaan dari Kak Yosefin, apa saja persiapan sebelum melamar beasiswa untuk ke US selain nilai TOEFL yang tinggi? Kira-kira apa saja, Kak?
Yes, nilai TOEFL juga important, but you can also take IELTS. And IELTS, it's an Australian-based English test. And it's definitely one of them that you need to consider. But also do a lot of research about the university that you're gonna attend. Do a lot of research about like the culture there, the environment, and persiapannya ya ada banyak sih sebenarnya. Kalau mau persiapan bisa bisa apply beasiswa mungkin langsung dari universitasnya atau apply beasiswa dari Indonesia kayak Fulbright gitu. Jadi sama do a lot of research about the place and the university, because once you get there, sometimes you have to like start classes right away. You have to find a place to stay. You have to find transportation. So all that, you can definitely Google a lot of things, and so just do Google Maps and how far is it from the airport to the university. And so when I first came here, the airport is a little bit far from the university, about 40 minutes. But between the airport and the university, there's nothing. So it's just all green, a lot of cows and a lot of chicken plants. And I was completely confused. I thought I was in the wrong place. So definitely did your research and don't take it for granted.
Oke, ya itu tadi ya jawaban untuk pertanyaan dari Kak Yosefin ya tadi. Di sini juga ada lagi nih yang mau bertanya dari Kak Rafli. Ya, silahkan Kak Rafli, mungkin bisa langsung bertanya saja.
Terima kasih atas kesempatannya. Saya ingin bertanya kepada Kak Albert. Jadi kan saya lagi di jenjang perkuliahan sarjana. Nah, saya itu ingin melanjutkan di MIT, rencananya mau ngambil MIT. Nah, untuk kayak beasiswa Fulbright itu kan, dia kan harus ada application letter. Nah, gimana sih supaya aku tuh keterima di scholarship itu, tapi dengan beberapa tahun itu kan harus ada pengalaman yang hebat karena dengan jangka waktu yang sebentar itu, gimana caranya supaya aku tuh bisa dapat kerja yang bagus juga. Setelah S1 aku harus kerja dulu, baru aku dapat rekomendasi, baru bisa ngelanjutin di MIT itu sendiri. Boleh ceritain nggak Kak untuk application letter Kakak tuh kayak gimana? Soalnya aku sendiri pun nggak ada kenalan yang di US gitu, nggak ada untuk, jadi kurang informasi gitu untuk application letter sendiri kayak gitu. Itu aja sih lebih ke application letter. Terima kasih Kak.
Sebenarnya kalau Fulbright itu kan aku kan nggak Fulbright. Nah, saya nggak di Fulbright, jadi saya nggak bisa bicara banyak tentang Fulbright. Tapi saya punya banyak teman yang dari Fulbright. Sebenarnya kalau banyak teman dari Fulbright sih banyak ya page di Facebook atau di sosial media tentang Fulbrighter di US. Mungkin kamu bisa ngobrol sama mereka gimana caranya buat kasih rekomendasi, kasih aplikasi sama cover letter gitu. I think that's probably the best way to do it. There's a lot of postgrad from Fulbright graduates out there, and you can definitely find one that would definitely talk to you. And so, and yeah, another option is just try to apply to other universities, and sometimes like it helps when you're in the U.S. and try to go to a bigger school like MIT and Harvard and all that. If you just come to the US and then do a little bit of experience, like research in other universities, and then eventually transfer there. So there's a lot of other good universities that you can definitely apply and then eventually end up in MIT. So it doesn't have to be like the direct way to go to MIT. And so I think that's probably my best advice is just try to research more than MIT and then eventually have a goal to get to MIT if you don't have the requirement that it's needed. So does it make sense? Good.
Oke. Kak, selain itu juga bisa nggak sih, kan aku tuh dari diploma, sebelumnya aku diploma di Diponegoro, terus aku lanjut lagi ke jenjang sarjana itu di swasta. Nah, bisa nggak sih kalau dari universitas swasta itu kita lanjut langsung ke US gitu, bisa nggak untuk S2 ya?
Bisa.
Apakah bisa? Oke, bisa. Soalnya kan takutnya ada pertimbangan gitu karena dia, soalnya setahu saya sendiri kan biasanya yang dari ITB, UI gitu-gitu yang lebih peluang untuk menangnya itu lebih besar gitu dibandingin sekolah-sekolah yang swasta di Indonesia. Gitu.
Iya.
Ada harapan.
Iya betul. Kalau misalnya kayak prestigious scholarship gitu, kayak Fulbright, Truman Scholarship, itu lebih like Bill Gates Foundation. There's a lot of requirement for that, and you have to really be exceptional to actually get accepted. But again, I can always refer to applying for graduate assistantship first and try to go to a public university in the US, and you can get your tuition paid for and like have a stipend. So I think that if you're in the US, it's a lot easier for you to apply to other universities while in the US because you actually have the US experience, and that's what they look for sometimes. So.
Oke, thank you, Kak.
Oke, terima kasih ya Kak Rafli. Semoga ini goal nih besok kalau misal mau apply beasiswa.
Amin, makasih Bu.
Oke. Ya.
Thank you, Kak Albert.
Selanjutnya nih, ada lagi Kak Albert yang mau bertanya dari akun yang namanya Redmi. Halo Mbak, Mas, bisa open cam atau open mic saja ya? Silahkan. Adakah? Atau dari teman-teman yang lain dulu, mungkin yang standby dari tadi mendengarkan Kak Albert bercerita.
Halo.
Oh iya, silahkan.
Sorry, saya belum ganti namanya. Okay. Actually, my English is not really good, but I'll try to speak English because I would like to improve my English too here. Nice to talk with you, Albert, and nice to know you all here. I wish I have other opportunity here to get scholarship or maybe fellowship or short course scholarship in US maybe. Actually, I am not fresh graduate here, but I want to find any opportunity to study in US, maybe if I can do that. And I would like ask to you, Albert, how to find any opportunity to get fellowship or maybe scholarship or maybe short course scholarship in US, how to get or how to find any information about it and how to apply. And then if for me, maybe I am not fresh graduate and I only bachelor degrees, maybe sarjana S1 ya kalau di sini in sastra Inggris, but I'm not really good in English, and I want to study in US. Maybe I still have any opportunity or not, and how to find any opportunity. And thank you very much because you invite me here and give me opportunity to meet with you all. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Yeah, definitely. If you just graduated, definitely there's a lot of other options to go for a master's degree in the U.S. There's a lot of you can even go to PhD if you want to after, and PhD would be a 4-year degree, and so there's definitely a lot of other options out there. Just having a degree from Indonesian university or just already have a degree, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to find scholarship. And just, I would suggest try to go to different universities that I would try every public university first and see if there's any assistantship or any scholarship for a master's program. And definitely a public university has a lot of scholarship to offer. Unlike the private university, they're a little bit harder to get to, and so.
Maybe there is specific website or maybe link, something that I can find.
Yeah, like this, my presentation, I have that graduate in international department at uark.edu. If you want to copy that, you can start looking. That's just my university. I can't speak for other universities. There's so many out there. So.
Yeah, actually, I am a journalist, and is there any opportunity for journalists to study in US? Maybe you find any information about that?
Yeah, and I would definitely research about. So, like with journalism, like it's going to be in a communication kind of college, and so you just try to go to their website about the department and see if there's any specific scholarship for journalism, and I think that's probably the best way to do it. Everything is so accessible right now, so you can definitely find a lot of different universities.
Actually, I should be active to find it.
That's good. Keep on going.
Yeah, I will. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ya, jadi emang sekarang ini semuanya sudah sangat terbuka ya Kak Albert ya, informasinya mau kuliah kemanapun, lewat program apapun, semuanya sudah bisa diakses di internet. Gitu. Oke, ini masih ada lagi nih Kak yang tanya dari Kak Airel. Oke, Kak Airel mau bertanya langsung atau lewat chat saja Kak?
Di chat aja Kak.
Oke, ya mungkin pertanyaannya bisa saya bacakan. Do you have any hope to go back and live in Indonesia again? Gitu Kak Albert. Gimana Kak, ditawarin nih, mau balik nggak?
I do love Indonesia and I want to go back at some point, but currently we're just only trying to visit a lot often. But yeah, eventually I think we're gonna try to come back home because I love Indonesia. So.
Oke, yang namanya orang Indonesia tetap pengen balik ya Kak ya.
But you can come back right now because it's still COVID.
Yes.
Ya nih. Oke, ini ada yang mau bertanya lagi dari Kak Dominico. Oke. Kak Dominico, silahkan Kak. Kak Dominico, mau lewat chat saja?
Lewat chat saja, Kak.
Oke. Ya, pertanyaan dari Kak Dominico adalah, kalau udah lulus dan bekerja di Indonesia, apakah ada kesempatan untuk bisa kerja di US? Jadi, kita ke US untuk melamar kerja gitu, Kak. Bisa nggak ya Kak kira-kira?
Bisa. Kalau mau ngelamar kerja dari lulus di Indonesia itu bisa, tapi kalian harus ada koneksi perusahaan US di Indonesia. Jadi kalau kalian nggak ada dua cara sebenarnya sih kalau mau kerja di Indonesia tapi nggak sekolah kerja di US tapi sekolahnya di Indonesia. Pertama itu cari perusahaan asing di Indonesia yang bisa transfer kamu ke US. Kedua, kalian bisa datang ke US terus coba cari buat bisnis sendiri gitu. Jadi kalau kalian punya impian yang unik atau ada peluang kerja yang unik, bisa di-apply buat di US gitu. Tapi itu lebih susah, soalnya kebanyakan apa yang kita pikirkan udah ada di US gitu.
Oke, berarti bisa, tapi kemungkinannya kecil ya Kak, dan harus ada koneksi dulu gitu ya. Oke, ini menarik-menarik nih Kak pertanyaannya. Kayaknya karena US sangat-sangat populer sih Kak sebagai tujuan belajar juga sih. Ya, masih ada satu lagi nih dari Kak Zaki. Halo Kak Zaki.
Halo, Mbak.
Wah, tim listener nih.
Oke. Halo Kak Albert.
Halo.
Oke. Kak mau nanya dong, gimana sih kehidupan di Amerika, terutama pas sudah kerja gini Kak? Udah kerja kayak gini, apakah ada persamaan mungkin kayak di Indonesia? Terus yang kedua, gimana Kak Albert di sana masih bisa main basket nggak? Kelihatannya dulu pernah ketemu deh di Jogja, main basket bareng. Thank you Kak Albert.
Ya, jadi kalau di jadi kalau di sini kehidupannya ya hampir sama sih kayak di Indonesia gitu ya. Jadi kita kalau aku kerja sih hari Senin sampai Jumat jam 8 sampai jam 5 jam 6 gitu. Ya tapi kalau weekend gitu kita kebanyakan kayak banyak pergi kayak daki gunung. Kan di sini di daerahku ini kebanyakan banyak pegunungan ya. Jadi banyak sungai, banyak danau gitu. Jadi kita pergi kalau summer kita banyak daki gunung gitu. Jadi ya be in nature and kind of relax a little bit. And so the good thing is there's not much traffic here, and so to get to different places it's pretty easy. And so jadi misalnya mau ke gunung gitu ya sekitar 1 jaman, 1,5 jam gitu. Tapi nggak ada traffic banyak gitu. Tapi kalau di sini kan banyak different season ya. Kalau di Indonesia kan ada dry sama rainy season. Tapi kalau di sini ada 4 season. Jadi ada spring, fall, winter, and summer. Jadi kalau pas winter ya sebenarnya sih nggak kemana-mana. Soalnya aku nggak suka dingin ya. Jadi di rumah aja kebanyakan kalau winter. Soalnya ya, dingin. Pokoknya kalau dingin banget di sini pokoknya. Ya jadi ya kalau misalnya kayak hari-hari kayak gini, aku biasanya main basket pagi gitu sebelum kerja. Terus kalau misalnya weekend gitu ya paling jalan-jalan sama teman gitu, nongkrong di coffee. Sini nggak ada angkringan ya, tapi adanya coffee shop gitu.
Oke Kak Albert, thank you.
Ya, main basket lagi nanti.
Ditunggu di Jogja Kak Albert.
Ya.
Ya mungkin kalau ada yang mau join basket mereka boleh ya teman-teman ya.
Boleh. Leicester Basket.
Leicester Basket Team gitu. Oke, tadi pertanyaan dari Kak Zaki. Sekarang kita beralih ke Kak Vivi. Halo Kak Vivi.
Halo Mbak, ya.
Oke, silahkan.
Yang di chat aja Mbak, tolong.
Oke, siap.
Ya.
Oke, Kak Albert, bisa berbagi nggak nih bagaimana menulis artikel dalam bahasa Inggris? Nah, itu langsung atau dibikin bahasa Indonesia dulu baru di-translate?
Kalau aku pertama kali dulu masih bahasa Indonesia.
Menulis swagger, aku dengar dia cukup bagus.
Oke, jadi langsung ide-idenya dituangkan dalam bahasa Inggris, gitu Kak?
Ya. Tapi sekalian sebenarnya kalau bisa lancar bahasa Inggris, terus kalian lebih gampang kalau ke sini belajar bahasa Inggrisnya lebih gampang kalau udah di US gitu ya. Soalnya kita kan being forced to speak in English. Kalau di Indonesia kan masih ada option, oh ini aku masih bisa bahasa Indonesia, jadi nggak dipakai banyak kan bahasa Inggrisnya. Jadi kalau tentang menulis, sebenarnya sih kalau kalian ngobrolnya udah nggak pakai bahasa Indonesia lagi, maksudnya kalau ngobrolnya udah nggak bahasa Indonesia terus ditranslate, kalian pasti nulisnya juga sama. Tinggal langsung ketik-ketik aja. Jadi tipsnya sih sharpen your speaking first, and so that you can just write faster in English.
Oke, kalau misalkan kita langsung nulis dalam bahasa Inggris juga secara tidak langsung melatih bahasa Inggris kita juga ya Kak ya, daripada bekerja 2 kali gitu. Oke, terima kasih ya tadi Kak Vivi sudah bertanya. Masih ada lagi nih Kak Albert yang bertanya. Masih oke ya Kak ya? Siap ya? Ya, sip. Dari Kak Sherin nih, pertanyaannya mau dibacakan sendiri langsung? Atau lewat chat saja?
Melalui chat saja, Kak.
Oke, iya. Pertanyaan dari Kak Sherin, Kak Albert, banyak peneliti yang pernah melakukan riset di US. Menurut mereka terkesan lebih menarik. Apakah benar?
Ya sebenarnya sih ya, kalau menurutku, kalau aku sih sukanya experience ya. Aku suka, I'm more a people person, and so I like to interact with people. So when you do research, sometimes you kind of stuck in the lab, and that's something that that's why I don't pursue. But for some people, they like to be in an isolated space where they can just focus on their work, and that's something that is working for a lot of people. And so ya, jadi kalau peneliti itu ada pro and con-nya juga. Kalau peneliti itu bisa lanjut ke PhD, bisa lanjut ke postdoc gitu. Jadi bisa nanti kerjanya di universitas gitu. Jadi kerjanya ya kalau nggak jadi peneliti di universitas ya jadi misalnya profesor atau jadi adjunct gitu.
Bagaimana Kak Sherin?
Oke, terima kasih Kak Albert atas penjelasannya.
Ya.
Oke, masih ada lagi Kak yang bertanya, Masya Allah, ramai sekali ya. Oke, dari Kak Hediana. Ini mungkin lebih excited kalau di open mic kali ya Kak ya. Halo Kak Hediana.
Halo.
Ya, silahkan Kak.
Halo.
Tanya secara langsung.
Oke, thank you. Thank you Kak. Halo Kak Albert. Kak Albert, I want to ask you about why did you choose University of Arkansas at the first place? Because maybe you have like research about their, I don't know, maybe their studies really good at your maybe I don't know that if you ever attend to a scholarship, because I didn't follow this presentation because I have my work lately, so I'm sorry if I'm not really following. And do you have any information or maybe like about the Master of Laws in University of Arkansas? Is there really like that good, have really good accreditation or something like that? If you ever know about that, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. Yeah, I chose University of Arkansas because my dad's friend is based off connection. So my dad's friend used to come and study here, and he went on and worked, and he actually went back to Indonesia when I came here, and so he came and worked for 25 years in here, and so basically my question to him was like, I want to study in the U.S., but I don't want to. I want to experience something unique. You know, I want to experience something that kind of like makes me learn more about American culture. And so, yeah, he suggests me to come here because Arkansas is kind of in the middle of U.S. So it's not very popular destination for a lot of students. So I actually went and to University of California in Los Angeles, but I heard that there's thousands of Indonesian students there. So it's gonna be really hard for me. So I put myself in a situation where there's not many opportunity for me to bail, to just like, oh, if I'm homesick, I'm just gonna go hang out with my Indonesian friends. But like I have to force myself to be in a culture where like I have to speak English every day. Um, and and of course there's a lot of Indonesian family here, and Indonesian, it's not going to be as many as like if you were in the West Coast. So that's kind of one of the reason why, and I'm kind of glad that I did that because it helped me to help me about my connections and my language better. And for the Masters of Law, as long as you're in a law degree, I think you're good to go. Like there's not, it's really hard to get into a law degree everywhere, really, mostly. But yeah, it's good. I think everywhere you go for a law degree, you can probably just get a job really easy. And so and that's kind of the misconception is sometimes you want to go to like a really prestigious school to get like a good job, but it doesn't have to be that way. So even if you get a just a bachelor from like me, like from the University of Arkansas, and nobody knows about it, I can still get a job here. So it's not a requirement to go to a prestigious school, and as long as you just like what you do and it fits well for you, it definitely worth pursuing other school. And just being in the U.S. Would definitely help you, and especially if you have a law degree, it's it's going to help you a lot in the long run. So.
Also, you find your university by yourself, not from like a scholarship or whatsoever.
Yeah, so I applied the scholarship while I'm in the U.S. And so I first like tried to find myself, through my parents. But I was able to find more scholarship when I was in the U.S. So.
Oh, so not in the beginning, just in the middle of the uni. Okay, thank you then for your answer. That's such great.
Thank you.
Oke, terima kasih Kak Hediana. Dari teman-teman yang
You're
lain.
welcome.
Oke, dari teman-teman yang lain masih ada yang ingin bertanya sebelum Kak Albert berangkat bekerja? Ada? Yuk teman-teman, yuk mumpung Kak Albertnya masih standby, bebas bertanya apapun. Mungkin mau bertanya gimana mendapatkan pekerjaan, atau gimana menjalin relasi dengan teman-temannya. Oh iya, ada yang raise hand ya? Dari Kak Ahmad Gani. Halo Kak Ahmad.
Vini, okay. I would like to ask you, first of all, how you can get a scholarship to because I don't know how to get scholarship properly. And second, why you choose your interesting study program where you like where you like to join the your favorite study program?
Can you say the second question again?
Why you choose your favorite study program?
Mungkin kenapa memilih program studi itu, Kak? Iya, sepertinya begitu.
Oke, program kuliah. Oke. For scholarship, the most important is just do research, do a lot of applying, and if you can, try to come to the U.S. And if you can fund yourself and try to come to the U.S., definitely it helps when you're in here. Try to apply for different scholarships. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and for me to choose my degree, it's just because of my parents, and I kind of like constructions and civil engineering, and so I've been enjoying my career so far, so it helps.
Bagaimana Kak Afan Gani?
Oke, udah sip jawabannya. Mantapu jiwa. Salam untuk Kak Leo sama itu ya, temen-temennya ya. Kalau ketemu. Leo Edwin, tahu namanya?
Enggak
tahu namanya. Soalnya belum pernah nonton channelnya ya. Dia juga pernah buat vlog tentang pendidikan di Amerika.
Oh gitu.
Ya, jadi nonton aja. Mungkin suatu saat Mas Albert bisa terinspirasi untuk bikin channel konten seperti itu. seperti temennya Jerome Pauline tuh sama Hansol.
Oke. Thank you so much ya Kak Afan Gani ya.
Oke Mbak.
Oke. Siap. Oh ya teman-teman nih, mungkin akan kita buka lagi sesinya untuk satu orang lagi ya. Mungkin tapi sebelumnya mohon kesediaan teman-teman untuk mengisi kritik dan saran untuk Listener Talk sendiri, karena nanti kritik dan saran dari teman-teman yang akan jadi inspirasi kita bulan depan mau mengadakan Listener Talk apa lagi. Oke, last question. Adakah teman-teman yang ingin bertanya lagi?
Saya mau tanya.
Oke, silakan.
Ya, halo Kak Albert, nama saya Alfian. Ini Kak Albert kan ngambil teknik sipil ya, civil engineering. Itu kan program kuliah yang sangat berat. Kalau menurut saya ya, di sini juga. Nah, kalau di sana itu, kalau menurut saya juga standarnya tinggi juga. Apakah Kak Albert di sana kesulitan untuk menyelesaikan mata kuliah itu, program kuliah itu? Itu aja sih. Terima kasih banyak.
Ya, terima kasih. Ya, sebenarnya kalau sulit ya emang sulit sih. Nggak ada yang gampang kan di dunia ini. Kalau gampang mah semuanya bisa. Kalau sulit, tapi kebanyakan yang bantu aku waktu aku di kuliah itu kerjasama sama teman gitu. Jadi kayak di kuliah tempatku itu kita punya satu ruangan buat teman-teman biar bisa ngerjain homework bareng ya. Jadi kadang-kadang kalau misalnya kita nggak tahu, kita bisa tanya, bisa minta bantuan, terus kadang-kadang ada whiteboard besar, jadi kita nyelesain soal bareng gitu kan. Jadi sebenarnya yang membantu banget sih itu sebenarnya kerjasama sama teman, tapi nggak kerjasama dalam ulangan, cuma kerjasama dalam preparasi aja ulangan gitu. Sama kebanyakan di sini itu nggak ada banyak lecture ya, nggak banyak presentasi dari guru gitu. Mereka kebanyakan kasih homework, kasih soal-soal gitu. Terus kita kerjain sendiri. Jadi kebanyakan waktu di kuliah itu kerjain banyak homework sama banyak paperwork gitu. Jadi kalau kuliah di sini misalnya kalian ambil credit hour, itu namanya credit hour, misalnya bisa sampai 12, sampai 15, sampai 18. Jadi kalau kalian jangan overwork gitu. Kalau mau berhasil, ambil aja 12 kredit atau 15 kredit gitu. Tapi jangan ambil teknik semua. Misalnya ambil 9 hour teknik, 3 hour Inggris gitu. Jadi dikombinasi aja. Jadi jangan ambil yang teknikal semua, jangan ambil yang kelas yang susah-susah satu semester gitu.
Oke, begitu Kak Alfian.
Oke, thank you Kak.
Oke, teman-teman, karena sudah hampir, sebenarnya waktunya masih ada, cuman sepertinya Kak Albert perlu siap-siap juga untuk berangkat kerja ya, Kak Albert.
Ya.
Oke, mungkin pertanyaan terakhir boleh nggak ya dari saya pribadi sih, ini Kak, saya mau tanya, kalau misal kita part-time berkuliah sambil bekerja gitu di US, pekerjaan yang biasa diambil mahasiswa kira-kira apa ya Kak?
Ya banyak di perpustakaan, banyak di tempat olahraga gitu, bisa kerja di mana-mana sih sebenarnya. Jadi banyak ya di universitas, kalau universitasnya besar itu bisa kerja di mana-mana gitu. Pergi ke universitas yang besar, misalnya lebih dari 15.000, 20.000 orang gitu ya, pasti banyak dapat kerjaan, banyak lowongan kerja gitu. Kadang-kadang enak sih kalau bisa kerja part time gitu, jadi bisa kayak ada penghasilan dikit gitu ya, jadi bisa kadang-kadang ya weekend bisa pergi jalan gitu, jadi ya enak.
Oke. Dengar cerita dari Kak Albert nih jadi kayak pengen nyobain gitu Kak, kalau kuliah di luar negeri itu kayak gimana, orang-orangnya juga gimana. Semoga ya Kak ya, impian kita nih teman-teman yang ikut juga bisa terkabul.
Amin.
Ya, mungkin untuk webinar pada malam hari ini bisa saya simpulkan yang pertama bahwa ada banyak jalur untuk kita bisa sampai ke US, entah itu dari beasiswa di Indonesia maupun kita apply sendiri beasiswa di US-nya, di institusinya. Kemudian yang kedua, untuk menjadi seorang worker atau pekerja di US, kita perlu memperhatikan persyaratan dokumen-dokumen legal-legal gitu ya Kak, biar kita tidak disangka ilegal dan kita safe, aman gitu. Terus selama waktu kuliah di US, sebaiknya juga jangan belajar terus, tapi juga kita harus menjalin relasi, belajar networking, belajar teamwork, critical thinking, karena hal-hal semacam itu yang nanti akan diincar oleh para pencari karyawan atau para perusahaan seperti itu. Oke, ini teman-teman udah ya, nggak ada yang mau tanya lagi ya? Saya hitung sampai 3 mungkin. 1. Oh iya, ada 1. Monggo Mbak Rahmi. Terakhir ya.
Oke, halo. Oke, halo Mbak Rias, Mas Albert. Maaf ya, pertanyaan terakhir dari saya yang ingin saya tanyakan. Program apa sih yang harus kita ambil untuk mempersiapkan dengan baik untuk mengambil scholarship itu sendiri, Mas Albert?
Ya, kalau di Indonesia dulu ya, Mbak. Ya, kalau di Indonesia bisa ambil kayak khusus bahasa Inggris banyak gitu, bisa banyak networking. Kalau misalnya ada kayak talk, a lot of different talks in Indonesia, you should try to attend, especially those are in English. So I think it's gonna really help you excel in the future. Jadi ya datang aja ke banyak talk kayak gini, terus tanya-tanya gitu. Ngasuh bahasa Inggrisnya gitu. Jadi ya pede kalau misalnya kalian mau apply. Jadi kalau misalnya kalian pede waktu apply aplikasinya, kalian pasti bisa jadi sukses ya.
Oke, makasih banyak ya Kak Albert. Thank you,
Sama-sama.
Mbak.
Oke, ya benar banget ya teman-teman. Karena memang kalau kita punya impian, emang kita harus usahakan ya teman-teman, apalagi kalau ke luar negeri. Nah, ngomong-ngomong soal belajar ke luar negeri nih, kebetulan Unilever sendiri juga menyediakan banyak program untuk teman-teman bisa meraih impian, baik itu mentoring beasiswa, kursus persiapan IELTS, maupun kursus persiapan TOEFL. Jadi teman-teman bisa pilih program yang emang dibutuhkan oleh teman-teman, dan tentunya kami siap membantu teman-teman untuk meraih impian teman-teman berkuliah ataupun bekerja di luar negeri. Gitu. Untuk Kak Albert, terima kasih banyak ya Kak ya telah bergabung di Lister Talk kali ini. Tapi mohon untuk jangan live dulu ya teman-teman, karena kita akan ada sesi foto bersama. Jadi dipersilahkan teman-teman untuk open cam semuanya, tanpa terkecuali ya teman-teman. Silahkan saya beri waktu. Oke, Kak Hediana, Kak Jenny, Kak Dian Ahmad, Kak Elrens, Laili, Sherin, Kak Agung, semuanya ya. Oke, Kak sudah siap. Kak Novia, Kak Hairunisa, Kak Baik. Oke, semuanya sudah open cam? Sudah siap? Kak Jenny tidak open cam ya? Oke, sudah. Mari kita foto bersama dalam hitungan ketiga. 1, 2, 3. Oke. Oke teman-teman, terima kasih banyak atas kehadirannya. Semoga ilmu kali ini bermanfaat. Saya juga ucapkan terima kasih untuk Kak Albert ya. Kak Albert dibela-belain sebelum berangkat kerja nih.
Sama-sama.
Oke, ada pesan terakhir Kak Albert mungkin? Untuk teman-teman Lister Talk.
Yeah, just be yourself, be confident, and trust the process, and it will pay off one day. So, good luck.
Oke, amin, insya Allah. Baik, sekian dulu ya mungkin Lister Talk pada malam hari ini. Ada satu pertanyaan terakhir. Kak, Lister menyediakan program apa saja untuk persiapan kuliah keluar? Banyak ya teman-teman yang bisa diambil, diantaranya speaking, untuk teman-teman yang mungkin merasa belum pede. Padahal speaking itu sangat penting. Kemudian ada scholarship mentoring, teman-teman akan dibimbing cara memilih scholarship yang tepat seperti apa, termasuk memilih universitas dan juga jurusan, dan juga tutorial personal statement atau motivation letter. Terus ada juga kursus persiapan IELTS dan juga TOEFL, dan masih banyak lagi program yang pastinya akan bermanfaat untuk kesuksesan teman-teman di masa depan. Gitu. Oke, karena udah hampir jam 8 juga, kami ucap terima kasih untuk teman-teman yang sudah hadir. Kak Albert, sekali lagi terima kasih. Mohon maaf jika dari kami banyak kesalahan. Kami akhiri. Selamat malam, selamat pagi. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Waalaikumsalam.
Terima kasih Kak Albert.
Waalaikumsalam.
Terima kasih Kak Albert. Terima kasih Kak Albert.
Sehat
Masih
selalu semuanya.
Jin Liv.
Terima kasih ya Kak Albert ya.
Thank you ya Kak.